Good morning, my yarny friends. I'm Sara Sach, and welcome to another edition of This or That. And what this or that is I ask you a question that has to do with yarn, beads, sewing, crafting, whatever that we're doing. It might be stitches, it might be, who knows? So what I do is I just ask you a question. Sometimes I'll give you a this or that response and you can pick one or the other, but you can always pick this or that or the other thing. And I hope that you will comment down in that comment section underneath the video, because I can learn from you and other people can learn from you as well. And we can learn, like I said, from each other. I like to do this because it gives me an idea of what you're looking for, what you might want to try as far as crafting and crochet. And also others can see what's available out there. And it's just a fun way to get to know each other and our crafting skills, because remember, we're all at a different place in our crochet journey. All right. You may have been crocheting for 40 years, but never tried a particular stitch. And someone who's only been crocheting for maybe 6 months has tried that stitch. And so we can learn from each other. All right. So let's get to today's point. Today's question is this. When we're doing crochet, a lot of times we embroider a face on. And this is what we think of when we think of embroidery, right? This is an older scrubby I've had. Actually, this is a coaster, not a scrubby, but it could be a scrubby. It's just a coaster that we added a fun little smiley face to. Or we might think of embroidering on a face like this. This is my chill pill. I put a quirky little smile on it and some little eyelashes. And then, of course, I use those safety eyes. But that's not what I'm talking about today. Yes, that is embroidery or stitching onto yarn or crochet. But what I'm talking about is adding some stitches like lazy daisy stitches or zigzag stitches to enhance a crochet project. Because we can do that, but there are certain ways to do that without those stitches sliding through and getting lost in our crochet project. And that's what I want to do a demo on right now. All right, so I've made some swatches. I've got a circle. I've got a that's stitched in double crochets. I've got a square that's stitched in single crochets. I've got a half circle here, and then I've got one here that's just all double crochets. And of course, these are the two I showed you earlier. Now, you'll also notice that this one and this one are cotton, and this one and this one are acrylic. And I did this particular type of swatches so that you can see different shapes and different yarns you can embroidery on. Now, I've got a piece of yellow cotton on my needle, and I do recommend that if you're going to embroidery on cotton, you use cotton yarn. If you're going to embroidery on acrylic, I almost said crochet, you're going to need acrylic yarn, okay? That's cotton, these are acrylic. I've got some yellow cotton on my needle. I'm going to stitch on this green cotton. So one of the things that's very important when you are stitching embroidery onto a crochet, whether it be cotton or acrylic, that you not lose those stitches between the stitches. Now, it's a little more challenging on double crochet than it is on single crochet. All right. But what you want to do is, most of the time when I embroidery, I'm eyeballing it. I might measure where I want to put some eyes or where I think the nose should be, or maybe the smile. And on a circle, a lot of times I'll make that smile right along that line of the circle. Same thing with the half circle. I might stitch right along that line. But still, it's very important that we don't lose those stitches. Well, how do we do that? We stitch in the stitches themselves. So here I have just your basic double crochet. And I want to do some fun stitches. So I'm going to make some daisies or lazy daisies. All right, so what I want to do is I want to go up in the center of that stitch. And I want to try to go through some of the fibers also. I'm coming up from the bottom. All right, I'm going to leave a tail of yarn for attaching. And I want to make a lazy daisy stitch. In a lazy daisy stitch, you go back in, where you came out from, and you want to make a loop And you want to make sure when you come back up that you go through a stitch. All right, this is the petal of our daisy. And then you want to go in, make sure you go through the stitch. All right, that's important. I made that just a little bit loose. Let's make our loop even. So there's our lazy daisy stitch. Now, if I were to stitch this through here, I would lose that stitch down inside that hole. Okay, but I want to make some more petals. So I'm going to come back up. Try to get in that same spot. There we go. And I'll make another one this way. And this is one of those stitches I love to use because it makes beautiful petals. And it stays nice and secure on crochet as long as you go back in and out through stitches, okay? And then we can do 2 more petals if we want to make a flower. And see, I'm going through stitches, not the holes. And to me, it is a little more challenging to do some of this embroidery on a crochet or knit item because of having to take a little more time. Because it's important to do that because we don't want to lose those stitches. Okay, so now I'm going to make a 4th petal. There we go. So now I've got a flower on there. Okay, now let's say I want to make a stem and we want to do a straight stitch. Well, we don't want to go in such a way that we're going to lose those stitches down in that hole. All right, so what I'm going to do, I am still going to use this yellow just because I'm using it. I'm not going to use another color, but I might switch to a different color if I'm going to make a stem. All right, but I'm going to go ahead and just use this yellow since we've got it on my needle. And you would just do what I call straight stitches. And so I'm going to make a straight stitch. I want to go back up into that flower because this is the stitch. And I'm going to come up where I went in. Okay. And you'll notice I'm in a stitch. I want to make sure when I come down here, I'm in a stitch. Okay. Again, you don't want to lose those stitches. Now I'm not going to come back up this way because I don't want it to go that way. So what I'll do is I'll go in, making sure I go in a stitch. I want my stitch to come this direction. So I'm going to come over here and make sure that I'm in a stitch. That's the key to a really neat and tidy embroidery, is to be in a stitch. So now I've got that. And now I'm going to go in there. And now I have a stem. Okay. And so then I just grabbed a lighter color of green to show you. I used the same lazy daisy technique and put a couple of leaves on there. So now we have a little flower with some leaves. I wouldn't normally do the stem in yellow. Like I said, I would do that in green. I should have done that, but I wanted you to see how that looked when you're just doing some simple embroidery. And again, the key is to go through stitches, not holes. All right. Now I've got my pink one here. This is acrylic, so I've got some white acrylic yarn here. As we're going to go in the back, come up in a stitch. You can measure this out. I usually don't. I just eyeball it. All right. So then I want to come over here because I want it to be kind of rounded. And you just make straight stitches. And again, you want to try to go through a stitch. And this sort of type of embroidery does take a little practice, getting used to what they look like, as far as where to put stitches for the stitches. There's the O. And then we'll go to the right or to the left And I usually leave like a stitch there in the middle, and I want to make an M for mom, so I don't want to stitch like right there. I'm going to go over a little. There we go. I want to make sure we're on the same line. And this one's pretty easy because you can just kind of go up, slant over. You want to try to make sure you're even. And again, you'll lose those stitches if you don't go through stitches. And you want it to look similar, so you're going to have to eyeball it. And so there's an M. All right, and then I'll do the same thing on this side. So I made another M over here, and now we have mom, or if you want to turn it this way, it says wow. Isn't that funny? All right, now what I want to show you also that you can use to do on a solid single crochet swatch is to make X's. And what you can do is you use the holes on this one rather than the stitches, okay, if you want to make some X stitches. So what I do is I use these holes each row, and you're going to cross across and make an X on each of the single crochets. Okay, so the next row I want 3 because I'm going to make a little heart. All right, so I'm going to come up. I'm going to make 3. So 1, 2, 3, and then I'll cross those across. Now I want to cross to here, and then that makes the first cross, and then we'll come down here, make the next cross, and we're using those single crochets like a cross stitch grid. All right, now on this next one we're going to do 5. All right, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do what I just did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we'll cross those back. And basically what you're doing is you're using your single crochet swatch or square or whatever it is as the cross stitch grid if you've ever done a cross stitch. Okay, now this next one we're just going to make 2, so we're not going to put one in this one, so we're going to come up in the next one and go ahead and make our X, and this is just a tiny little heart shape. Okay, we're going to skip the next one because we want to have that opening there in the middle. And now we've cross stitched a fun little heart. Let me get that off of there. On a swatch that says mom. And this is a really nice way to do a fun little cross stitch on, say, a coaster or something like that, or even just a gift card for your mom. And so that's another way of embroidering on crochet. Now this last thing I want to show you is that you can really just have some fun. Okay, I've got a round circle, and so I'm going to utilize that circle. All right, and I'm going to make a smile on there. So we're going to use this and just make a circle. Or not a circle, a smile. This is a circle. Okay, and then you'll just go around that edge. Making a nice simple smile. And that's one of the things with doing a round that you can do. Oh, I went in the wrong place there. Get back out. I get slid in there. And it happens. Learning to embroidery on crochet is a little bit tricky because there are so many things that you can do, but there's a lot of things that just don't work. Okay? And that's why it's important to understand, you know, how it works. Now, if I want to make a little slide across there so that we have a little mouth at the end or a little cheeky thing at the end, we can just do a line, and that will make that at the end. A lot of times, because I want it to be more thick, I will just go right back over what I just did and make that a thicker line across. It's just a really simple way to make a smile. And of course, there are a lot more embroidery stitches that we can use, of course, to make smiles and different things on our projects. All right, then I want to make sure I go through a stitch. And now I have a cheeky smile. You know, so the last thing I really want to show you is a French knot. I like to use them a lot, and I get a lot of people that just say they don't understand how to use them. They slide through the stitches, and they do. So you have to do a little tricky thing, and I'm going to show you. Okay, I'm going to put my eye right here. So what I do is I'll come up from the bottom, make sure I've got a little tie, enough to tie back here, and I'll make a little stitch. And you can see I went over a little bit. And it's like when I add a button, I make a little loop on there. It's almost like making a little knot, okay? And then we'll make our French knot. We'll wrap 3 times. And then we'll go right in that loop that we made and go in. Okay? The key to not losing that French knot is when you're wrapping, don't wrap it too tightly and make that little loop at the beginning. All right? And then when we get to the back, I always go ahead and tie a knot in the back. And that's going to help it keep from pulling through. All right, let me do another one just so you can see. Let's make sure. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, about right here. We're going to come up from the bottom. Leave a little bit for tying a knot. Make that little loop in the stitch. Make sure I go through it. There we go. Then we'll make our French knot. 3 wraps, not too tightly but not too loose, and go right in that same spot. And that's going to take you right through the same stitch. Okay? That's a little creepy. And then we go to the back and we'll tie a couple knots. And that's going to keep it from coming through. All right. Now, there's just one more technique that I want to show you, and that is how to hide those weave-ins on the back of our work, because that's a little bit messy, right? All right, let's just embroider something on here. Let's see. Let's have some fun. Maybe make a zigzag. So we'll come up in a stitch here, and we'll zigzag over here, and you'll notice I'm going in stitches, not holes, and just making a little zigzag trim. And I like to do these because they're fun. You know, maybe this is the edge of something, maybe the top of a coffee cozy or something like that. And you want just a little extra something, and you just can make some zigzags. They don't have to be even. They can be, you know, kind of, there we go. Off and on, however you want to do, just some little zigzags. Of course, I'm going around the edge of this, and I'm just going in and out. They're just straight stitches, going in and out of stitches, and so I've got a little zigzag going on. Okay, now, I want it to look nice in the back, right? I don't want it all messy, but I don't want my stitches to show through in the front either. And I just realized I'm stitching with acrylic yarn on cotton. Big no-no, but that's okay because I'm just showing you what we're going to do on the back. Now you are going to have some stitches like this. You can't get away with that. But when you want to hide your stitches, what you can do is go in only just the back, go up, go through just those back loops, and go back through. All right. And that's a little bit neater, and also it won't show through on the front. The key is just going through those back loops of the stitches and not on the front. Normally we like to go through when we're hiding our stitches, weaving in, is to go through the fibers and all of that, and that we should do that. But when you're doing embroidery, it's a little bit different. All right, so those are some ways that we can add embroidery or stitching to our crochet projects. And they're a lot of fun. Adding the little extra things to our embroidery gives it just an extra pop, especially when we're going to give those as gifts. Like a flower like this could be added to a scarf, a hat, a bag, anything, you know. Going to make a coffee cozy for your mom. You want it to say, wow, Mom, or Dad, or, you know, anything that you want to do to add just a little extra fun. You know, even zigzags add fun, right? To your crochet projects. So here's the question. As I always say, let's bottom line the question. Are you interested in learning some embroidery on some of our crochet projects? Please answer this question down in the comments so that I can see what you're interested in learning about. I always love crochet. I love yarn, but I also love all the crafts, and I love to incorporate other crafts into my crochet, like adding buttons and beads, sequins, embroidery, and you could add all of those things to one project and it'd be super cool. So anyway, remember, there are no wrong answers. If embroidery on crochet is not your thing, that's okay. I am okay with that. But if you'd love to try it, I would like to know that, because I love to have a wide variety of things in crochet that you can do and you can learn. And I love to learn right along with you. So, like I said, please comment down in the notes, down in the comment section underneath this video, and we can read each other's comments and learn from each other. So, that's all I've got for you today. Thanks for watching this edition of This or That, or maybe the other thing. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.